I wish they could map my brain. That way I could erase replicas from my memory. This was a true blue January film. And it was awful. I can't believe this was even in theaters. But then again, it was done by Entertainment Studios. They also produced Hurricane Heist, 47 Meters Down. I mean, they did produce Hostiles. That was great. And Chappaquiddick was good. But yeah, this is not one of those two films. This is more along the lines of 47 Meters Down and Hurricane Heist. When I first saw the trailer of this movie, honestly, it was so far back that I don't even remember what was in the first trailer. All I remember was that I was intrigued by it, and I wanted to see it. I was kind of excited. I was like, okay, this could be a good sci-fi film. But then it got pushed back, and then it got released in January, which is never really a good sign, but hey, there's still some good January movies out there. They're very rare, but there are still good ones. Maybe this will still be an okay movie. And then the reviews came out. Now, I didn't watch any reviews. All I noticed is that the score is really low. This is looking like it'll be a bad movie, but I was like, okay, I could still have my fingers crossed. Maybe this will be okay. But then we get a trailer for an Entertainment Studios film, which is the sequel to 47 Meters Down. And I was, as soon as I saw that trailer, I started dreading later this year when I'm eventually going to see it, because I did not like the first 47 Meters Down, and now they're making a sequel. So I'm in a bad mood. And then the first production studio logo shows up, and I see it's Entertainment Studios. And I thought, holy crap. Now, they've done good things. Like I said, they did Hostiles. They've done Chappaquiddick, but they've also done Hurricane Heist, 47 Meters Down, 47 Meters Down 2. They've also done Friend Request. That's not looking good. And then the first shot of the film is the bad CGI helicopter that's in the trailer. And I'm like, wow, they're going to open up with that shot? And then the characters started talking. And that's when I knew this is going to be a god-awful film. Holy crap. I got to get ready, get strapped in. This is going to be painful. Replicas stars Keanu Reeves, who is a neuroscientist in this movie. Now, he is working on a project to revive dead soldiers by mapping the brain of the corpse and transferring it to a synthetic brain so that they could live in a robot body. But as they're about to go on vacation, him and his family, there's a car crash and his entire family dies. Now, not wanting to lose his family, even though they just died, he wants to bring them back to life through cloning, because the company he's working for is also dealing with cloning. And so he tries to clone his family, but they're going to have blank slates, so he's going to need to figure out his own project so that he can successfully map their brains, transfer their mind into the clones. That way he can have his family back. And that's pretty much the whole movie. And the whole movie is about the complications of all of those things that he's trying to do. And then the last act turns into a thriller out of nowhere. Now, even with bad movies, I like to start with the positives for my movie review. Unfortunately, I'm having a difficult time trying to think of good things that happened in this movie or things that I liked in Replicas, because this was a very long, boring sit-through, despite the fact that it feels like it's 2 hours long or more, but it's really not. But good things. I need to talk about good things. All right, so Thomas Middleditch, is that how you pronounce his last name? He's in the film. He is sort of the best friend of Keanu Reeves' character. He's also the one working on the cloning project, and so that's why Keanu gets his help. And he's also sort of the / comic relief of the film, but also he is a little bit more of the realist of the film. He's the one questioning the morals of our main character and constantly saying, hey, you really shouldn't do this, or hey, this is kind of against the rules, and hey, you're dragging me into your web of lies, I don't like this. So his character is good in the movie, and he is easily the best actor in the film. Surprisingly, Keanu Reeves is the second best actor in this film, and or at least when it comes to performances. And look, I like Keanu Reeves. I like a lot of the action films that he's in. He's a great action star, especially John Wick. He finds roles that he's perfect for. This is not one of them. When he's not in an action movie, and it's a role that you just don't see him in, he is one of the worst actors around. Thank God he's charismatic, because otherwise he's laughable. He's actually pretty bad in this film, yet he is easily the second best performance in this movie. That's saying something. Now, this movie does have a lot of neat science fiction ideas in it. And some of the things that they have to worry about with cloning the family, and like, oh, aren't people going to notice that they've been gone for 17 days? And you gotta deal with their social life, because you gotta find an excuse why they're not showing up and why they're not around to everyone else, and some other things like that. And oh, we only have 3 pods, but you have 4 family members who died. You're gonna have to not revive one of them. So there are little things, little moments that are interesting. Unfortunately, this movie doesn't know what to do with those ideas, and sometimes they're just executed poorly, executed comically, or they show up in the movie and then they're never talked about again. That's the only good things I can say about the movie. It has ideas that it doesn't know what to do with, but are interesting ideas, and it's got one good performance in the movie. That is it. I guess let's start with the acting, because everyone is bad in this movie except for Thomas Middleditch. He's the only one good, and he's the only good character in the movie. So all the characters suck as well. All the characters are boring, flat, and just useless. By far the worst performance, in my opinion, isn't actually the kids, which is surprising. Usually it's the kids in these types of films. But it is Keanu Reeves' wife in the film, who is played by Alice Eve. Alice Eve, I don't know, she's probably been in movies that I've seen, and she's probably had some good performances, maybe. I don't know, I can't judge. But from what I saw on screen for this particular movie, she is the worst. And I'm sorry, but she's so awkward in the film. And even before she's a clone, it's almost like she doesn't know what scenes she's a clone and which scenes she is her normal self. Because even when she's her normal self before she becomes a clone, she's creepy and robotic. I guess just like Keanu Reeves. John Ortiz is in this film as well. And at first, he's okay. He's like your stereotypical boss that is overlooking everything. And it's like, hey, we need results. We need results. And like he's like over the shoulder of everyone, and he's just intense. But then the third act happens, and he becomes a cartoon villain, and it's horrible. It is just horrible. But then again, it is actually kind of hard to blame the actors, because the dialogue is horrible as well. The dialogue is so stilted, so robotic, so clustered of exposition. Like, it's so clunky, and it's so out of place, and there's times when characters talk as if they're not human. They're like aliens. Either the dialogue is right on the nose exposition or just awkward. Nothing in this movie with the dialogue is good, in my opinion. Granted, I have seen movies with worse dialogue and dialogue that makes no effort of telling a story, but this is still really bad. I can't even say the camera work was even that good or that interesting. Most of it is pretty standard for a sci-fi movie or a sci-fi movie of this lower caliber. But every time there was a dramatic moment, it's like all the cinematographer knew what to do for those moments was tilt the camera in a Dutch angle. So many Dutch angles during the climactic, interesting action-packed, emotional moments. It's like, oh, something important's happening. Gotta tilt it. Gotta be a Dutch angle. That's the only way to show that something big is happening, I guess. The visual effects are also bad, and it's hard to complain about it because it is clearly a cheaper, lower budget movie, but at the same time, it just still looks really bad. When the robot was actually moving during scenes, like especially towards the end, which is laughably bad, it almost looked like stop motion rather than CGI. And yes, it's probably trying to imitate a robotic movement, but again, it looks like it's stop motion rather than a CGI figure. It's really awful. But the worst thing about this movie is its story. It's above everything else. It is easily the worst thing about the movie. It's clear that the people creating this movie had no idea what they wanted in this film. It's like a mismatch of a bunch of different ideas and a bunch of different things, and they don't know what to run with. They don't know how to complete the story. It almost feels like they were writing this and making it up as the movie was being shown in theaters. It's that bad. Like I said at the beginning, with The Good, they have ideas, but they don't know how to fully flesh them out. They know how to set up ideas, but they don't know how to make it interesting by continuing with those ideas. The movie sets itself up as a very predictable, the evils of science, like a Frankenstein, where it's like a scientist plays God and some consequence happens because of it. Maybe the clones go crazy. Maybe the clones become deformed or have internal issues and he's going to have to put them down anyway. It's like, you can't play God. That's the kind of story this movie sets up, especially with this guilt-ridden scientist, clearly very desperate to bring his family back, going against all these rules, and a guy constantly saying, hey, we shouldn't do this. Maybe I should talk you out of this. This could go wrong. This could go horrible. But then even when the clones are actually revived and everything goes right, it looks like there's scenes where the clones are having issues, like having issues internally, or maybe looking crazy and looking like maybe they're going to kill them. But that doesn't happen in the movie at all. It's like they set up this whole scenario and then decide, you know what? Let's go with something different. We don't know how to end this. And then they go this very predictable evil corporation route, which has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Oh, there's so much to talk about with this film. There's so many ridiculously stupid moments. Like even the car crash, even when his family dies, this supposedly emotionally gripping scene is downright stupid and just laughable. My cousin and I, we were laughing during that moment because here they're on the road, they're driving in the van, and it's raining, and Keanu Reeves goes, no, actually the wife, I think, says, she's like, I can't see. Can you see? No, I can't see at all. Suddenly, lights as a truck is coming, everyone screams and they swerve, and then the truck misses them, and then they keep going down the road, and then it goes all Final Destination because suddenly lightning cracks, the tree falls in front, a huge branch falls in front of the road, and then somehow they run into the branch in a way where a piece of stick goes through the windshield and stabs his wife, and then they swerve and go down a hill off the road, fall into a pond, face first, by the way. The whole front of the car just dives down diagonally, right? And then it cuts to the van the opposite way diagonally so that it's in the back. And I'm just thinking I'm thinking, what? And I even looked at my cousin who was sitting next to me, and I did the motions of equals. Like I did like this weird thing, and then I realized, oh, I know why they had to change the car so that all the kids could drown in the back. They couldn't think of a way to kill the kids during the car crash, so they're like, oh, let's just change the position of the car so that they drown in the back. I guess they must have all got knocked out from the crash, or they couldn't, or all three of them couldn't get their seatbelts off, because it's kind of ridiculous that, I mean, they were one of them was a teenager, one of them was a young adult. It's like they should have been able to get out of there if they were all awake, or if one of them was awake. Then there's another moment where, in order to keep the pods alive, because if the electricity goes out and these pods lose electricity, then things don't go right. Things will fail. And so he gets all the car batteries from all of his neighbors and hooks them up in a way so that they're all like a backup generator for these pods, these cloning pods. And the cops come because everyone's car battery has been stolen, right? And so they knock on the door, and there's like, excuse me, everyone has lost, someone has stolen everyone's car battery. Did they hit you too? Did the thieves get your car battery? And Keanu Reeves is like, well, no, they didn't. Oh, then did you see any suspicious characters? No, I didn't see a thing. And then you think the cops would question, well, why did his battery not get taken? And hey, maybe this guy could be responsible if he didn't take his car battery but took everyone else's, maybe. But instead the cops are like, oh, you must be one of the lucky ones. Sayonara, bye. And then they just walk off. There's a lot of dumb characters in this movie. There's the dumb henchmans. Heck, there's the dumb... Now I'm getting into the final act of the movie, and I don't care if I spoil it for you, okay? Turns out the company that Keanu Reeves works for is suddenly this evil company that they want this consciousness transfer to happen so that he could like transfer hackers into their own virus and a bunch of other things like that. And then John Ortiz knows that Keanu's family are clones and they're property of the company. So he's like, we're going to terminate them and you're going to give us what we want, because they want the algorithm that Keanu Reeves figures out that of why... You know what? I have to go into detail of this now because I have to explain another stupid thing before I explain the stupid thing that I tried to start explaining. So again, Keanu Reeves is trying to he's trying to map the minds of corpses, because I guess all the neurological patterns are still working in the brain even after your hours dead. And so he's trying to map all of that into a sequence. Then he puts on a little like head visor, and it goes like Minority Report and stuff, or even Ready Player One, where like the screen just like visually appears in front of him, and he's like moving windows here and windows there and different things here nonsensically. Like there's no reason for it to be doing this way. He could have easily did that with a computer and it would have been completely fine. It's like really stupid. It's really stupid. But anyway, he's trying to transfer that mind into a synthetic mind. And it goes horribly wrong the first time you see it in the movie, because clearly the person freaks out and starts ripping apart the robot that he's in and stuff, and he's like, who am I, who am I, who am I, who am I? And he's like ripping off the face, and it's very clear what's wrong. He's frantic, he's panicking. Just imagine if you were a person, a soldier, who just got shot and died, and that's the last thing you remember. And then you remember now you wake up and you're in the body of a robot. You don't have your own body anymore. You're gonna freak out because you're in a robot body. This is very obvious. And the epiphany that Keanu Reeves has towards like the last part of the movie, when he's trying to figure out how to get his wife's mind into his wife's body, he realizes, hey, that'll actually work. Because, hey, maybe that guy was freaking out because he was in a robot body and couldn't feel any organs or any skin or anything. And it's like, you lose the sense of that. You need a body. So this should work. I'm just thinking to myself, I could have told you that. I could have told you that. Why? Why do you think of that now? Why did you figure it out now that trying to put a human's mind into a robot body is gonna freak people out because they're in a fucking robot body and they had no consent of it? Like, that's your big epiphany that I thought they would have realized that like at the beginning of the movie. But anyway, Keanu Reeves figures this out and he figures out an algorithm that will help trick the synthetic mind into believing that it's in a body rather than a robot body. And he has to do this by mapping his own fucking brain, which involves a needle going through his eye, and he has no consequences of this whatsoever other than he bleeds a little bit, he cries blood a little bit, and then that's it. He's completely fine. So the villain wants this algorithm so that they can, again, use this to put people into viruses, like hackers into their own virus and stuff like that. And so Keanu Reeves has to knock out John Ortiz, and it could have easily been solved. He knocks him out, they're in the back, and there's a pool there. And I'm just thinking, just push him in the pool. He's unconscious, he's probably gonna fucking drown, just push him in the pool. And they're like, nope, not gonna do that, just run away with the family. I'm like, well, that's gonna bite you in the ass now, Keanu. And then even the henchmen do something stupid. Like, the henchmen, oh my God, there's one point where they realize the clones have trackers in their body, which is not mentioned at all. And then Keanu's like, oh yeah, that's obvious, they always have trackers. And I'm like, why didn't you know that before? You're trying to keep this clone thing a secret. Fuck. You should know about the trackers. And so they have to take the trackers out by frying the trackers with a defibrillator, where thankfully the wife works at a hospital or a clinic or something, and then they drive there and they try to get the trackers fried. Now the henchmen, they park next to Keanu's car, and there's 4 of them, and they all decide to go in the hospital and split up. And I'm thinking, okay, there's probably one left behind with the car. Well, these 2 groups, of course, never find the family. They're like, oh, the family was just here. We just missed them. And then the family runs out to the car, and I'm thinking, okay, there's a henchman with their car is, right? You didn't leave a henchman with the car? So they just freely get into the car and drive off? What? I tell you, there's a load of stupid crap in this movie. And some of it is entertainingly bad, while other things are just frustrating to watch. And it's awful. It is so awful. Now, granted, it's not like one of the worst things I've ever seen, but it's still a true blue January film. And I'm going to have to give Replicas 1 star. Again, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. In fact, as I was going through all the different bad categories in this film, like the acting, the dialogue and stuff, They were all bad, but they were all like 1 star worthy out of 5. So ultimately, the average came to about 1 star for this review. So, did you get to see the travesty that was Replicas? What'd you think about it? Go ahead and comment below. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews or countdowns of this year, of previous years, of whatever. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my